Hey, Jared. So I'm excited. I am with Jared Kierecki. He's the newest member to Team Hilbert.
That's right.
So glad you decided to join forces. You've been with us for what? How many months? 6 months?
It'll be 6 months end of the month.
You've been with us 6 months.
Yep.
Incredible. I can't believe it's gone by so fast.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about why you and I started a conversation about potentially joining a team, because you've been a solo agent for how many years?
9 years. This
9
is
years.
my 10th year in real estate.
Which is unbelievable. I remember when you first got into it coming as a chef from Wegmans, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And a little side note on Jared, he married one of our first employees that we had at Keller Williams Realty.
That's right.
Which was, oh my God, time just flies, isn't it? And now you've got one child.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Jen's actually the reason I got into this business.
That's right.
One day, actually, it was your husband, Chuck, running around. And Jen looked at him and then looked at me and goes, "You ever think about selling houses?" I was like, "Nah." And then about 6 months later, I said, "Well, if I was to get in the business, where would I start?" So she brought home the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book.
Awesome.
Read it cover to cover and then worked on getting my license.
You kind of like the language that it spoke?
And well, yeah, I like that there's a path, there's systems, there's models. This is how it gets done, right? And even in the back of that book, there was a lot of interviews, short blurbs of people who were doing different things and then found success in real estate.
Right.
So I found that at the time like very motivational and kind of empowering.
Oh, I love that.
There's definitely like a path to success in this business.
There is, isn't there?
Yep.
I mean, and so many people have done it. So why try to reinvent the wheel when it's already been invented?
Yeah.
All you got to do is I was talking with Elise and a couple other people on the team. You just got to do the activities.
Yep.
Right. So let's go back to you were doing great as a solo agent, and then you decided maybe a team is the way to go. Like, what was that pivotal moment? What was that all about?
Yeah. So 9 years rowing my own boat. Right. I initially. One of the reasons I decided to even get into real estate was betting on myself, right? That I like what I put in as what I got out of it. And always initially had seen myself growing a team as kind of the path to success there. And at the end of the day, 9 years later, hadn't taken the initiative and the steps to do that. And, doing your own thing for a long time for an otherwise extroverted person can become a little bit lonely. And you guys, the team always had a lot of energy around the office. And I had interviewed multiple teams within Keller Williams, a lot of great options within our brokerage of teams operating at a high level, heading in great directions. And you guys, you got great culture, right?
Love that.
Knowing you and Chuck pushing 12 plus years, maybe more. As long as Keller Williams has been open, you guys have always been generous.
15 years.
15, yeah. So
open in 2009. Is that 15 years? If I do the quick math.
Yep.
15, 16, I mean, somewhere's in there. Who's counting?
And even when, I wasn't part of Keller Williams and Jen was just working the front desk, you guys hosted at your house our wedding shower.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
It was huge. It was tons of fun. It was super generous. And I just never forgot that.
Aww.
So when it came to joining a team, I was also looking at, you took your team from when Chuck was operating it, and he went off to focus more on the brokerage, and you took it over, grabbed the reins, and took it from doing what, maybe 12 to 16?
10 to 12.
Yeah.
10 to 12 million,
to where you are now. And, I saw a lot of opportunity there.
Oh, that's awesome, Jared. And I'm so excited that we won out from interviewing, because I know there's amazing, amazing talent and teams within Keller Williams and within our whole industry here in the Rochester area too, right? I got to toot the horn for Keller Williams. So, I mean, we are the brokerage to grow a team.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the systems and the models all in place. It's a really easy way to do it.
Yep.
Building a team's not easy, right? I mean, and I know you had talked about trying to do that for 8-9 years.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fail forward, fall back, just keep moving forward and keep trying and trying and trying and doing.
Yep.
So I'm glad you landed with us. That's amazing. So what do you think really sets us apart from other teams?
Yeah. So one of the things that I looked at, of course, was production, right? Where are we now versus what trajectory the team is on? before making a decision. And then the other thing in interviewing other teams, one of the things, at least from the outside, I seem to notice is what Team Hilbert does well is you go fast, right? And through speed comes a lot of opportunity and the quantity to then work out the quality, right?
I love that analogy. It's very true.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, I, kind of thinking on it, decided that was going to be a good fit for me, because I'm also not one to fall too far into the minutia of things or overthink things. And there's certainly a role for some people on the team for doing that. And yeah, I like that it was more about let's get it done first and then get it done right later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do move fast, right? Like speed to the lead, just like that, just like in anything, right? Speed to whatever you want to do in your business. And we all have amazing ideas. And I love when different people on the team bring an idea. I'm like, damn, that's great. Let's try to make it happen, right?
Yep.
Well, let's work as a team. Let's pool our ideas and see how we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like the one thing that I love that you're kind of taking on is helping us really use our CRM, which we use Follow Up Boss a lot, really using that at the highest level.
Yeah.
Because we just kind of turned it on, plugged and played. It's, it was a Band-Aid to fix a problem that we had.
Sure.
But there's so much more we can do with it.
Yeah.
And like you took it upon yourself and you did the research and you came and you showed me, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. You're going to spearhead that. You're going to run that committee on the team.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I always like to find frankly, an easier way to do the same amount of work.
Yeah.
Right. If I can find a way to get more done in less time, I'm all about it. And
well, I think that's awesome.
That was just one of the tools that we have for, implementing templates, things like that, engaging with our clients at a higher level, but doing it in a way that, in real estate, if you're having the same conversation more than once with anybody, you should probably put a system in place for it. And
great point.
And that really has helped a lot with that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And let's go back to the leverage. I mean, let's face it. How old's your little boy?
5.
He's 5. I mean, he's had 5 years of you. I mean, you want to leverage so you can spend as much time as you can. Because I know from experience, my kids are old. You don't get that time back.
Nope.
You don't get it back.
Yeah.
And you don't want to miss out on a lot of the firsts.
Yep. And that's one thing, it's not always easy. And it's definitely something my wife and I talk about all the time. Like, we can confidently say we've poured into our kid since having him. And real estate's allowed us to do that. And, it may have been substituting some of our earned income opportunity during that time.
Sure.
And yet we've already seen like the return on investment on who he is now. So, and I don't know that I would have gotten that doing something else.
I love that. No, that's really, really cool. And I've noticed since you joined the team just in the past 6 months, how you've kind of blossomed into that leverage concept. I mean, you brought a couple ideas to me, which I was like, damn, that's a really great idea, not just for you, but for a team usage all the way across the board. I mean, you even went down and broke it down into numbers, like what that would look like, what the monthly cost might be for you to leverage just one particular part of your business and what your return could be.
Yeah.
And your return far outweighed the small cost.
Yeah.
Right. And like when you were a solo agent, I don't know if you had that way to think that way because you were just...
I didn't have the deal flow to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
When I'm doing, 0 to 4 deals a month solo, it wasn't much of a concern or an issue, right?
Right.
Whereas we've got the opportunity on the team to, I've been consistently doing 5 deals a month.
Yeah.
And the goal is to do a lot more than that. And I know in order to do that, if I look at the bigger picture based on our business model, well, either I'm going to have to dump hours into that or find a solution to it. And that's actually what I love about, our big team goals is it forces us to ask better questions.
Yep.
Being around Keller Williams, it's something that was always talked about was like, hey, set big goals. And it's not to put more money in your pocket. It's because it causes you to become that person that can find solutions for those big challenges. Right. Is the way I kind of always looked at it.
So we always do, like you just said, we have team planning, and I always meet with everybody one-on-one before that. You filled out the intake form, and my question was, what is your unit goal for next year?
Yeah.
And when I saw your number, my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
I had to lift it back up because I think you had 80 units.
Yeah.
80 units, for anybody that doesn't know out there in real estate world, that's more units than a lot of mini brokerages do.
Yeah.
And you were talking as one man. I loved the number, but when you and I met, we talked about it, right? I want you to have a realistic goal that's going to be attainable, and not something that you're just constantly going to be grabbing for and maybe not get to it. Right. So after you and I discussed that, where did we end up?
Well, I mean, the floor goal is 60.
Yeah.
You know, and we're already on a path to accomplish that. And that's where I've always found goals to be, if I shoot for 80 and did 78, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, but if I shoot for 40, I'm not going to ever hit 60, you know?
Right.
For me personally.
Right.
And I'm not one to get too hung up on my goals if I don't accomplish them, but it is nice when you do.
Yep.
And really, it's all to put an arrow further up past that even. And I know we get there through systems and models and that leverage. Because you're right. No, I think if you were to do 80 units solo without having leverage, that's just not a way to live life.
You have to live.
And yet there's no reason not to be able to do that as long as you put the right systems in place.
Right. So you set your goal for 60, and 80 is our push goal for you, which is still absolutely incredible. There's been people on the team that have done 60 units on the team because they use leverage, because we have the systems in place, and it changed the world.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to change your world. I know it's going to be amazing, and I'm excited to see what this year brings for you.
Yeah.
You're pounding, you're on the phone, you're doing the activities, you're making the calls. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Have you found that joining the team has helped you stay on that target as far as doing the activities?
Yeah. I think there's always going to be a little bit more pressure to show up with other people.
It's true.
Than for myself.
Yeah.
Right. At least for me, right? I always admire somebody that can just hold themselves accountable to some high level. That's great for them. It's not who I've ever been. And I'll always show up more to either prove someone wrong, because I'll work hard at that, or to support other people, right? And the other thing with our culture on the team, I find, is I really feel that we're really all just pushing towards our own goals that collectively really add up to be something really impressive. And we really get this culture of we're really there to help each other. I haven't had the other thing I love about our team, it's, at least for everything I've seen so far, no drama, right?
Yeah,
very
leave
low
it at
drama.
the door.
Yeah. And even when there are issues, they're handled with grace, and, you know, I'm really impressed with how well everybody's just kind of there to help each other out.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what can we do to all do better?
Yeah.
Right. And that's huge.
You just said grace. I love that too. And actually, you're all going to be getting a book at our team planning event next week, and it's called Grace Space. And it's just a small little read that I want us to read as a team. And it's really about creating grace for yourself and for the people that you live with and you work with, and what that looks like, so you can just kind of be in tune with everybody's got different things happening in their lives.
Yeah.
And allowing that grace and allowing those moments for people to have that, just like we try to allow grace for our clients, because we never know what's going on in their life, why they couldn't make the appointment, or they had to cancel this, or this couldn't happen, or that couldn't happen. I mean, it's all about the grace.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times we're just running, and we don't take that time to just, like, let's take a step back. Let's take a breath.
Yeah.
Let's have some grace for ourselves too.
Yep.
Because, I mean, we might be working our tails off and not getting the result we want. As long as we know, and you know, and everybody on the team knows that they're doing the best they can, they're doing what they need to do to get to that goal, you got to give yourself some grace, because there's sometimes things that we can't control.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
Tell me something that made you feel so amazing that you were able to do with a client in the past few years.
I mean, that's definitely part of what I find value in what we do is, I had a long career with Wegmans cooking before this.
Yeah.
And it was great, right? There's nothing bad.
Great place to work.
And yet, making 500 pieces of chicken French every day, it probably helped somebody's dinner out, but it wasn't really impacting their life that much. And yet, when we practice real estate, I kind of tell people we're under licensed and over compensated psychiatrists, right?
Okay, yeah, a lot of times we are psychiatrists.
We often are I don't know anyone who doesn't buy or sell a house out of some pain point, right? Whether it's they're not comfortable with their neighbors, or they've had a big family change.
Right.
And so while there's plenty of like individual stories I could tell, I think the reality is I don't know a single transaction that's not mighty important to somebody's life, that most people are only going to own somewhere between like 1 and 4 homes in their life. And to be a part of that process and to help them through that, that's always huge. And, whether it's helping a family sell an estate, or helping somebody buy their first home, or I just helped a gentleman relocate to the area. And I really got to give him credit. He put a lot of trust in me because he didn't get to see the home in person.
Oh, really?
He closed on it.
Oh, it was a virtual showing.
Yeah.
And he had no eyes on the ground here. You were his eyes?
That's it. Yeah. And so to see his outcome and his reaction when he got to see that home in person at our final walkthrough was huge.
Was he just like besides himself?
He was very happy with the outcome.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
And,
because that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Buying a house, never walking in it before.
It's bold.
I mean, that's how we had to do it during COVID, obviously, right? I mean, we're like, hey, it's just the way it is. But he had an option. He could have gotten on a plane or plane, train, automobile, whatever it is, to get up here to look at it. But somehow in his life, he couldn't fit that in.
Yeah.
Where did he relocate from?
He was coming up from down from New England.
Okay. So it wasn't that far.
Rochester for work.
So he trusted in you and in the process.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Jared. I love that.
And so that's, I can't think of hardly a transaction where it wasn't exceptionally important to the seller or the buyer that we got the outcome that they were looking for.
Right.
And we do a lot as agents to keep communication level, right? Because there's sometimes, the thing is, real estate can also come with a lot of emotions.
Right.
Right. And I think when we best serve our clients, when we're able to take all of their emotions in and help them filter that out so we can communicate, effectively with the other party.
Right.
Because if people were left up to their own devices, one client would tell the other client to go pound salt and nothing would ever get done.
Right. Right.
So
a lot of times when I meet with clients, in particular sellers, I'm like, I know this is going to be an emotional sale for you. It's not fun selling a house. So, get ready for that. You have the emotions. Let us deal with everything else. Like, we're not going to get emotional in this transaction because we are protecting your pocketbook, one of your largest investments you're ever going to make. And that's important for us to be able to monetize that for you as best we can without the emotional attachment, right? And like trying to teach a seller, like, have no emotion about what people are going to say about your home.
Yeah.
Right? You got to just take yourself out of that.
Yep.
And just be this neutral party.
Absolutely.